Well, what's up, everybody? I want to say thank you so much for being on for the second, depending on when you're watching this. Tonight is the second Breaking Monday. Barrier Breaking Mondays. They're very simple in terms of what the thought process is. They are nights designed to equip us, to encourage us, to empower us with everything we need to overcome obstacles and with practical tools to help overcome barriers in our life. Do me a favor, type in the comments, let me know that you can see us, you can hear us. Take a moment to share this video, to text somebody, to tell somebody else to join, as I have incredible expectations in terms of what is going to be shared tonight. I'm looking forward to my brother who's going to be on here tonight having this conversation and dialogue with us. And then for those who may be watching this and somebody shared this with you and don't know who I am, I'm Teddy Matthews. I have the privilege of leading Empowerment Church as the pastor there. I also serve as the director for the Empowerment Foundation. And I do several other things in terms of development and leadership and coaching. And one thing in which I want to do throughout this next stretch of time is to allow whatever source of platform or whatever source of influence that I've been given, and the fact that many of you all trust me as some sort of influential figure to you. I want to share people who have spoken into my life, who have encouraged me, who I have watched grind, who I have watched overcome, who I know bits of their stories in the same way in which it has served me, it benefited me. I want them to, in turn, have the opportunity to serve you all well and to share with you so you can glean from them as I have had the opportunity to do so. And the brother who I have with us today, depending on where you're from, if you don't know him, I don't want to say shame on you, because there may be some reason for why you don't know. But after tonight, I'm convinced you're going to be so glad that you tuned in to watch and to spend the time together with us. He's someone who I've come to know over the course of the last few years, and I feel like I've known him so much longer. Just the genuineness of who he is. There's some people where you can just tell that they say what they say because they mean it. They say what they say because they believe it. They give everything they have to whatever they do because they believe that they believe in the importance of being a faithful steward over that which they've been entrusted to. And when I tell you that is the story, I believe without a shadow of a doubt, of Christopher Parker. He'll speak more about it and share more about it with you. But before I bring him on, I need you all to go ahead and hit that button. I'm not convinced y'all are hitting that button. I need you to share. I need you all, if you're watching this on the Facebook page, I need you to like. I need you to heart. I need you to make sure. Listen, let's just be clear. I need you all to make sure people see this. Why? Because I believe that barriers can be broken. I believe that mountains can be moved. I believe that obstacles can be overcome. But whatever area we are ignorant in, we suffer from. So if we're not informed adequately, if we're not provided the proper tools, we will forever be stuck, because whatever area we're ignorant in, we suffer from. But if you give people the opportunity to become encouraged, to become inspired, to become empowered with the tools, it is then on them to say, you gave me the information, but I didn't want to get better. But I believe that people are going to get better tonight or whenever they watch this back because of this dialogue and this discussion. And so any other announcements I have, what I'm going to do is I'll come back and give you those at the end of this. I don't want to belabor the time any more than I already have. I do want to make sure to do this, though, just in case some of you all have to hop off. And then I want to say thank you again to those who are going to watch the replay of this. Maybe you're not watching live. Maybe you're watching the replay. What's up to the replay crew? You're loved just as much as those who can hop on live. But on February 27th, this upcoming Saturday, I'm also doing a talk. So this week will be a busy one for me. But I'm also doing a series of talks, to be exact, on Saturday evening, beginning at 6 p.m. for the married couples at 6 p.m. called Rated R Talk. It's honest conversation, the stuff you typically can't ask in church, don't have time to ask in church, but stuff that needs to be dealt with if we're going to have successful, thriving relationships in marriage, as well as at I believe it's at 7:30 p.m. on Saturday. So I'll do an hour, about hour 15 with our married couples, and I'll do another hour and 15 or so with the single community. You all need just as much love, if not more love, because I couldn't even imagine what it's like to be single in 2021. I couldn't imagine what it's like to be single in 2020. I couldn't imagine what it's like to be single anymore. Praise the Lord. I've been married 7 years in October of this year. And we had a lot in common. We actually shared that date, if I'm not mistaken. We got married all the same day and didn't even know each other. So we've got so much that I just thought about right now. But let me move out of the way. Christopher Parker, known throughout the Western Chicagoland area as one of the leading African-American bankers. This is key and critical. One of the leading African-American bankers who's working to build an equitable economy for Black and brown communities specifically. That's key and critical. He's working, and when I say he's doing the work, he is doing the work to help make sure that we have equitable economics in Black and brown communities. He's currently the vice president and director of community banking for Wintrust Financial Corporation. He's had a successful 10-year of leadership for the last 15 years. And ultimately, he will speak more towards some of these things. But again, he's all over the place. Civically, he serves as the chairman and commissioner for the Economic Development Commission in the village of Maywood. He's the board of director for the Answer Inc. Incorporated, an autism awareness agency. We're actually going to have Deborah Vines on here in a few weeks. He also serves on the board of Housing Forward. I mean, he's everywhere. He does some of everything. He serves at his church. He's a deacon, the CFO, and I'm sure he's probably so much more at Redeem Enrichment Ministries. And I'll let him speak to so many of these other great, great things. I just can't wait to have him speak to you for himself. With no further ado, send some love in the chat, say welcome in the chat, type some hearts in the chat, whatever format you're watching from. Just welcome my brother as we bring him on, Christopher Parker. Let's welcome him to Barrier Breaking Mondays. What's up, my brother? There he is.
What's going on, sir? How we doing?
We're doing incredible. Thank you so much for you being on with us tonight. It means so much to me. It honestly and sincerely does.
So glad to be on. So glad. Always see you out working in the community. And so it's great to be able to have some time to really just relax and have one of our normal conversations out with, so everybody else can see how our normal conversations go.
Oh my goodness. And that's the truth. I mean, the conversations we have and we have had, I mean, people should pay for them without a doubt. Like, if we're just going to call it what it is. I was on a call right before this and I was talking about the reality of the investment that people should be making in their future and in their now. And the conversations we've had over the course of time, just over breakfast or just in passing, have been life-changing and game-changing in so many ways. And so I'm grateful for you being here tonight.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm going to jump right in. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself? I know I read some of the highlights, and again, I read from your bio because I was liable to just tell people everything I think about you, and I would have been incredibly important. I would have let them know how much I think of you, but I want them to hear just from the heart a bit more on what all you're involved in now, and just kind of what it all is that you do, both locally as well as across the state, because I know you're just involved all over the place. So This is not the time to be quiet or shy. Let us know what you do.
Yeah, so what don't I do is probably a little bit better. Sometimes I don't think. I don't ever stop to think. It's just called. But I will say this. Most of the time, people don't know that I'm really just a church kid that the Lord has favored and allowed me to sit at certain tables that was never built or meant for me. And so what I would consider my case was, I just was so thankful for God placing me in certain positions and table that I try hard to work hard to show him my gratefulness for him putting me in position. So I have to say that I didn't some of the involvement in where I am in life is not any because of what I've done. It's just because God opened up doors. So I'll always so born and raised out in southwest suburbs in Joliet, but literally had an opportunity to intern for Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida, and moved down there for a year. After
Wow.
I interned in Disney, I actually took two classes for them, a effective communications course and an organizational leadership course. Keep in mind, Disney World is the top recreational company in the world. Went down there and took the classes and worked at Disney World and interned for a year. Got back up here and really hit the ground running, and literally spent a good amount of time after that internship, really figuring out what I wanted to do. Ended up getting into banking. Worked my way up from a teller to vice president in over, let's see, probably a 5 to 6 year time period. So literally didn't take long. I was one of those people that that knew the opportunity that was before us and really just went away at working hard at studying and doing my own research and really doing the hard work early so that I can make my life a little easier as we go along. And so what really happened to kick off kind of my passion, besides growing up in the church and really watching and being a witness to the power of service and helping people, I literally started on the board of the Y. One of our associate ministers at our church talked to him and gave me an opportunity in my early 20s to sit on the Y board. And after I sat on the Y board, that really pulled a lot out of me in terms of all the things that I had learned through the church world. A lot of those things became applicable in terms of really civically helping out and doing some of those things. So to answer your question, from stemming from my time volunteering on the Y board, now serve as the chair for the Economic Development Commission for the Village of Maywood. That I have a passion for business. I have a passion for Black business and Latino business, and I have a passion for low to moderate income neighborhoods, which I call underappreciated communities. I also work very closely with Deborah Vines with the Answer Inc., which is an autism agency. Sit on the board for Housing Forward. Housing Forward really works with transitional housing, those people that may not have a permanent housing solution. And then, I also sit and serve as the President's Advisory Council for ComEd. There's a number of things that I do. And locally, in order for me to give back out locally, I now also serve the board for our African American Business Association for Joliet now, and I'm really passionate about really after you travel far and come back home, every now and then you gotta make sure you're taking care of home. So my home here is in Joliet, in which I do my part as well at home. So that's a piece of the pie that I we have enough time to share, sir.
No. And again, you and I both know that great people, just to use the word, great people or people of great influence are busy. It's the nature of the game. You cannot have significant influence in your schedule not be reflective of the impact that you're having. It just is what it is. However, one of the things I think you and I talked about one of the times when we were sitting down for breakfast was about doing the best we can to become masters of the calendar, right? It was kind of about this whole idea of evaluating what to say yes to, what to say no to, and just kind of, navigating through that. So I appreciate you even sharing some of what you do, because I think sometimes some people miss the opportunity that exists before them because of what it requires. But if you're going to impact people, you got to be engaged. Like if you're actually going to provide impact to communities, specifically Black and brown ones that are overlooked. I love that word you gave, that are often overlooked. If that's going to happen, it's going to take digging in. It's going to take involvement and engagement. So thank you for speaking to that. If you could, I got a couple other questions I want to ask, but one thing you spoke to, really couple things I would like for you to kind of speak to. One is, I've always, even right now, present day, pre-pandemic at least, I have been looking into um, one of Disney's offerings they have for just leadership experience. So it was like their 7-day immersion for executive leadership. I started looking into it like in 2019. I started looking into it, I think, in 2018. And it was something I was writing on my goal calendar for me to do kind of within the next 3 to 5 years or so, pre-pandemic, of course. But it's because I love how they have kind of just worked at who they are, who they aren't, and what it meant for them creating magical experiences. Right, I've read all of their books around their experience, but I'd love for you to speak a little bit about kind of your experience internship wise and how that may have shaped you in some of your most formative years.
Oh God, yeah. Man, I'm gonna try to keep this as quick as possible, man. Disney does not play. All right, they do not play, and so somebody like me, a Southside. I mean, when I if anybody that's on here from Joliet, I'm born and raised on the Hill, which is probably one of the neighborhoods that people kind of look down on in Joliet, in east side of Joliet. And let me tell you, none of us really went, got internship opportunities. So, man, I'll never forget. It was my first plane trip to this internship, first one. So I get on this plane. They drop me off at Disney World and into their internship program. We had to shave. We didn't even barely get off the plane before they told us we had to shave. It was so funny because it was my first time shaving as well, because nobody told me I had to, look a certain way. So I remember when I got done shaving, like I had like spots all over, like I had cut myself up a little bit there. They just, man, they did not play. And what they built inside of us was that when it comes down to tourism, and when you are on the stage, and that's what it's called. So remember, life is the stage, right? So when we showed up on stage, you were there to make sure everybody else experience was the best that they ever had. So that meant we went out of our way to make sure that people had literally the best experience ever. Now, keep in mind, some people, when they go to Disney World, they felt like this was a once in a lifetime. And for most people, some people go a lot often, but most of the people only go a couple times throughout the lifetime. Is very much so costly. But when you do go, it's quite the experience. And everything that we did, we had to really make sure that we were on point to the T. And here's what's interesting. Even underneath Disney World, most people know or don't know. If you Google it, it's there. There's an underground underneath, and I worked at Magic Kingdom. Let me preface by that, and most of the other areas had it as well. But there's an underground for the employees, or what we call cast members. And so one of the things that's interesting about that is even in Disney World, even in some of the like I work for in Adventureland. Well, I could never wear my costume in Tomorrowland. So I had to go underneath the ground and to walk where I was going, because I could not have that costume on outside of my scope. But it was really a standard that company set, and their training was 2 months long. The schooling was very rigorous. Top folks came in and really to educate us, and it really came down to a standard that was not going to be compromised. And that's why Disney is the way it is today. It's just uncompromising, and you will adhere to what the guests want. And if you don't, then goodbye. And it's very, very serious. So I was actually glad to graduate that program, because a lot of folks I came in with didn't finish. So yeah, it was a very rigorous process, and the classes that we took started at 7:00 in the morning. So I would say this: I literally left Disney World a grown man, because when I got there, literally I didn't know, I had no care, no responsibility, and this was first time away from home. they showed me standard. They showed me a spirit of excellence. And they showed me life is all about how you perform when you get on stage. And so I owe them a lot. I really do.
I think thank you so much for sharing that. And I read that in your bio when after you sent that over to me. But that's a unique experience there you and I had never talked about. But I have an absolute passion for studying how Disney has done what they did. And again, I really do. Whenever all this pandemic stuff is, I'm not really interested in going there for 7 days to hang out. I don't even know if they're offering it now, but I wouldn't be interested quite as much as, to some degree, it will be interesting to see how they're doing it now. But without that being, it's like leaving my family for 7 days to go down there, like that's just a bit much right now. But I would like to still go because even on that one, the executive leadership immersion program is equally as rigorous, right? It's not even for interns, it's not even for young people. It's for those who are executive leaders looking to transform organizations and take leadership development to another level. And it's equally as rigorous. The day starts like 6:30 a.m. for them, and it ends about 5 p.m. And you have like 2 lunch breaks. But I think that was it. Like in terms of the schedule, they said if you want to go play, I think they give us a after at the time they were given an after-hour pass if you wanted to go to the park after you finish your learning and your coursework. But I think you mentioned something that I think is key and critical that I believe is lacking in terms of, if we're going to be honest, has always lacked, but is still lacking today, which is one of the reasons for why I'm starting these Monday nights and I'm working on a couple courses for, is just this standard or this lack of a standard that exists in terms of development, in terms of honestly preparing people for, I love that, life stage, right? Disney has very specific language that I feel like any organization and any individual probably should adopt and adapt for their life, right? They refer to being out public, that's the stage. Your cast members, you're not staff, right? Everything is super duper intentional. But when you talk about like how it prepared you for life, so on the church side, I did something called Empowerment University a couple of weeks ago. And my intention with that is to prepare people who want to come through our church and become a leader or become involved to say, hey, look, some churches may do things this way, but this is our standard. And we're not lowering you down. We're calling you up. Because we feel like if you can become better here, it'll prepare you to be better out there. We don't want better church members. We want better people who also likewise happen to be a member. And so some of the external coursework I'm also working on, the digital courses, are also around that same ideology of raising a standard, of developing another mindset, because ultimately it's required if you're going to advance. I think you said it yourself, that it formatively shaped you into who the person is you are now today.
Yeah,
and that was the internship.
Yeah, I think honestly, you're right. I think the biggest thing that's according to what you in accordance to what you're saying is people need an opportunity to see something greater, bigger, and more broadened than what they see today. And that's exactly what Disney did. So what happened was when I got back, my life was changed because I had seen something greater. I had seen something established, something that was different, that was real, that really charted my course. And that's why I do the best that I can to really believe that life is a stage, and that when I show up, that I have to make and be the difference. And I think that had I not seen the difference, had someone not taken the time to pour into me, I mean, I moved away out of the home, so I didn't have anybody on my back forcing me. This is something that they said, this is what we want you to do. Either you do it or you go home. And I think it reminded me of that saying, "Go big or go home." It's at the end of the day, there are people out there, Pastor Matthews, that want to step up to the plate. No one has shown them, no one have been in position to give them something larger than life for them to mirror themselves after. And I will never forget my experience because they gave me something that I'd never seen and something that was larger than life. And I carried everything that I've learned with me today. And that's been almost 15 years.
Wow, yep. That's so incredibly powerful. That's so incredibly powerful. Last week, I interviewed Lorenzo Weber, and he, like you, is somebody who has a plethora of roles in West Suburban Cook, not just the township, just like you. And one of the things that he brought up last week was what I'll ask you for at the end, but he mentioned this statement, and it was that in order to become a barrier breaker, actually, what was his barrier breaking thought? And he said, in order to become a barrier breaker, you have to see barriers as opportunities to meet with grit, right? And so to see that as saying, listen, go hard or go home is real, go big or go home is real. You know, we did this thing last year, we're talking about get better or at least die trying, right? At least commit to putting forth the effort. But I discovered in my early years of serving people, I was working in the nonprofit world, in the private sector, and I was serving another overlooked community. I was doing some things in Maywood, and then I was in the far south suburbs. And what I discovered was a lack of exposure to this better idea. So what they were hitting was the limitations based upon the environment that they had been in. So you're saying that Disney was one of the catalysts that exposed you to the level to even believe some things was possible. Is that safe to say?
Absolutely. Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
that's so huge. Now let's talk a little bit about your banking experience. Again, I want to make sure to also kind of hear from you about that. I think what you're doing in the banking world is incredible. Something I didn't see, something one I didn't see growing up, something I don't still see today. And even something that people can see my skin color, as something that as a Black man I've always dealt with, was the reality that whenever I walk into a bank, I have to walk in completely differently than my counterparts and hope that I might get a better treatment. Like I can walk in a three-piece suit and I still may not get treated better, but I know if I walk in and I don't have on some more presentable outfits, that I'm going to potentially be looked at differently and or treated differently, as if I don't have however many bank accounts I have at the bank, whether it's personally or organizationally, correct? So I'm saying all to say there had to be some barriers you had to break, some obstacles you had to overcome in order to even enter into the financial industry, I would imagine, let alone achieve the levels of success you are achieving today. Could you speak to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, Pastor Matthew, these questions, man, I can go on and on, man. Yeah, the banking industry, my goodness. So I think the best place to start is where I started. So what you find out in today's time is most African Americans or minorities are typically let in the door. And I don't mean that in a negative way. What I mean is that folks typically will go through and get into banking through the retail door. And so typically what that means is the entry level positions that mostly are open is through the retail bankroll. So you will definitely see a minority, in my opinion, more quickly in a bank teller role than you would in a vice president role. And I say that because the numbers are very crystal clear. And I think that one of the reasons why is because those roles tend to have a higher turnover. So what that means is that you see a lot of people maybe working that teller job to get themselves through a year or two in high school before they go off to college. And then some people have those jobs while they're in college, and then some people tend to to make it long-term careers. But my story is, and I don't share this often, but I actually started off in when I got out from Disney. I applied at 3 different jobs. I got offers on all 3 of those. They only wanted to know about my Disney experience and they hired me. And so I ended up getting a job at a bank as a teller. And from then, from being a teller, I actually applied for a supervisor management position, got that position, and then was fortunate enough to be given an opportunity after 11 months in the banking world to lead a actually branch team, which again a favor from God. So at the age of 22, I was a bank manager leading the team, and so that was something different with no degree. And so that was something that was trial and error. This is taking God with you everywhere you go, because some doors that are opened up for you, you want to be the best you can with what you have on the inside of you. And so, long story short, most people don't know this either. I used the success in the retail banking world to literally get to a point where I was comfortable with my family, and made a decent living. But what happened is my church was looking to build a new church from the ground up. And so, long story short, I start hanging around the commercial lenders to help me help my church build the church from the ground up. And so I got so intrigued with asking all the right questions and learning the details of it all, that when it came down to an opportunity for me to work in commercial lending, it was something that I only had enough information on it because I helped my own church to go through that process. And I only learned it because our church was looking to build, and I was one of the people that was in the financial sector. And most people don't know, you can work in a million different industries in the banking world. You can be in IT, you can be in retail, you can be in commercial lending, you can be in marketing, you can be in finance and finance and analytics. I mean, you can go. There is so much in insurance. I mean, there is like tons of stuff. Wealth management. There's so many different things. So, long story short, so from me trying to build and help our church, I really started to love what I was learning through the process in terms of lending. And so after I helped and was successful with our working with the group of team in the Lord's favor of helping our church build a nearly $2 million church, I then had enough experience to go through that process. And so there was an opportunity that came up for me to take my retail experience and lending experience, commercial lender, and do both. And I did that. But what I found out is I was in love with lending, and what made it a passion of mine is I had an opportunity to work in another sector of banking that there was nobody, and until this day there's still very few African American and Latino bankers. And so that was one thing. But then the other thing was I also found out that the Black and brown communities did not have good experiences with lending for their businesses or banking in general. And so this thing opened up another door and passion to really, and that's why I talk a little bit about my goal and passion is really making sure that we have an equitable economy to where Pastor Teddy or anybody else that goes into a bank, you're not marginalized because of your looks or your background. And so many of us just don't know. We need somebody to take our hand like we see others doing, and to really just walk us through some of these processes early on. And so that's really banking is still, to your point, very, very we see a number of financial institutions that are lacking in the area of staffing resources to really make sure that some of our communities are really are thriving. And so it leads me to one of the things that I'm doing now is working in the CRA department. CRA is Community Reinvestment Act. In the late 70s, the president at the time felt like we needed to make sure that the underappreciated, the low to moderate income neighborhoods, banks would just not only build a bank in the wealthy areas, the high income communities, but somebody had to meet the needs of all communities. And so they put together this act to say, hey, we're going to be judging you all on a number of things. Number one, you're lending. So there's a lending test under the CRA. there is a what we call kind of an investment test. So after we look at how our bank spends our profit and our donations, where do those go? So that's one of the things. And then service hours. CRA says that bankers in areas and communities, we ought to be lending our service and expertise and on a service perspective, volunteer hours in these communities. And so my job that I'm transitioning into allows me to oversee that for our bank.
Wow. So you ended that with talking about how you're transitioning into another new role. Since I've known you, you just continue to evolve and grow throughout the financial industry, which I think in and of itself speaks to your commitment and your dedication to continual growth and service. Like I want to acknowledge that if nobody else does, I don't see you, and I don't see you as one of those kind of people, but I know you to not be one of those people who are just pursuing titles for title's sake, but you're doing it and you're growing and you're evolving, and it's honestly all been and it's all about what value you're able to take back to these overlooked communities and these overlooked people groups. And so I want to say congratulations to you on that, and thank you for what you do in that area in that regard. There's a underlying theme to those of you who are watching or will watch this back later that I hope you heard from Chris's story, and what you heard what you heard but you may not have picked up on yet is this reality he spoke to, that if you've ever heard me speak before, I speak on often, which sounds like this, brother, is this principle of the exception, that what happens to others does not have to dictate or determine what happens to me. Everything it sounds like you went through and you overcame was because it sounds like you were determined to be the exception. It may not have worked for them. They may have had to have had this. They may have had to have this. But I believe it's possible. Disney showed you it's possible. Your spirituality lets you know through God all things are possible. You were exposed to it corporately and you believed it was possible. And as a result, you are living what it looks like to be the exception, to become a barrier breaker. And for those of you who are watching, that's key and critical. You will not overcome obstacles. You will not be able to break barriers if you do not believe you can be the exception. Like, I know it's tough and I know it's challenging, and all of us have to overcome something in some area, in multiple things, in multiple areas, but you have to believe that it's possible. Like, everything you spoke to was about how others hadn't done it, but you did it. Others hadn't seen it, but you saw it. Others hadn't experienced it, but you did. And what I get to watch and witness from a distance is what it looks like for you to do what you said. I wrote this down when you said it, is to be the best you can be with what you have inside of you. Like, sometimes some people spend so much time trying to be a decent expression of somebody else instead of becoming the best expression of themselves and figuring out whatever that means. And so I want to say thank you for sharing that. I think that all of what you shared tonight was key and critical. But every piece I heard you talk about, some of what you overcame and worked through and navigated. And yes, there's this, for those who are believers or who are watching maybe spiritual, there is this reality of what God calls favor, right? It's undeserved, it's unmerited, it's unearned, it's favor. But what we have to understand about our life while we're here on earth is, while if you're a believer, while we can believe that God gives it to us, we have to know what it means to walk in it. And what you all heard tonight, or whenever you may be watching this back, is somebody who resolved that God gave me time, he gave me talent, I'm going to give him my life. And I'm going to take everything that I have, everything that's been placed into my hands, and put my hands to the plow and put my feet to work, and believe that if I've got it for a reason. So, brother, I want to say thank you tonight. If you all are on live, I'll give you all a couple of moments to leave something in the comments area. If you have any questions for my brother, I would love for you to drop it in the comments, and we can ask him a couple questions before we let him go. But while they do that and they prepare for that, if you could leave us with one statement, if you had a thought something that either kept you going, something that held you on? Or would you, if you had a barrier breaking thought, what would that be?
Yeah, simple. Carry hope. Um, uh,
Mm,
Carry hope, and it is my life's testimony that no matter what road I got to, I had hope. And I know Barack Obama won a whole entire election off of hope, but but literally, hope says that there is a possibility. Hope says that there's probably a slim chance. Hope said that there's probably some type of light at the end of the tunnel. And to your point, Hope says that there is an exception always to the rule, and it's where and I didn't talk. I didn't say much, but I'm married to a phenomenal woman that is just and we are actually we got married on the same day, Pastor Matthews. I heard you mention that earlier. Um, but my wife is she
yeah,
is
1025 is the best day ever. 1025. I mean, I think we're both 7 years this year, right? We're 1025
Yeah,
14,
that's
right?
it.
We're
Yep,
same
that's
day,
right.
same year.
Same day,
Same
same
day.
year. Probably the same time. But my wife is one of a rule keeper, in which that she went and has matriculated from an English teacher to a dean of students to now working in administration. And so her and I often have this funny conversation about my life is about breaking the rules. And not that you just are a lawless or you breaking the rules because you like to go rogue, but my whole life has been about carrying hope in every situation. And I think sometimes when people naturally see what's in front of them, they don't see what's around, and that's the barrier that we're looking at. But hope really allows you to ascend from the position that you're in and the barrier that's in front of you, and give you a glimpse of what's on the other side. And sometimes you have to see it before you see it, and you have to know it before you know it. And that's what really hope is all about. I encourage, I love Psalms 23. And this is not a King James version, but it's another standardized version. It says, "The Lord is my shepherd. I have everything that I need. He lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams. He guides me along the right path and bringing honor to his name. And even though I walk through the dark valley of death, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me." And it goes on and it goes on. But one of the things that's important to know is hope is the very thing. And hopefully, we're living Christ-centered lives, that Christ is that blessed hope that allows us to allow us to see the impossible. And every corner, every road in life, my entire testimony has been able to overcome the things of this world because of hope in Christ, and certainly hope in being, as Pastor Matthews alluded to, being the exception. I want to encourage people to carry hope everywhere you go. Don't leave home without hope. Don't go to a bank again without hope. And don't ever look in when you're in a moment of opposition. Don't stop or don't stay there. But I serve, and I hope you serve a God that will allow you to ascend past the no, and allow you to experience the favor of God, that will lead you into what He will have you to do in this life. And that is my story. Now people might have a different story, but that's my story. That's, as someone was saying, I'm sticking to it. I have carried hope everywhere I've gone, and I will continue to carry hope. And so I stand and say, I don't think there's any limitations to what God has next for me, because I have hope. And though I may have, as the scripture has said, I may have a host that's encamped around me, we know that God will, of course, as the Bible say, lift up a standard against them. And so I take the Lord with me, and I carry hope everywhere I go. A good friend of mine in Detroit had a hashtag that said "Hope Pusher," and so I'm not going to steal that from him, but I am a hope carrier, and I am a hope pusher. So that's my word, Pastor Matthew.
No, I love it. I love it. Here's what's so funny. And Miss Connie, I see you posted up there. He answered. I see you came back and said he answered that question about hope. Absolute hope. What's funny about that is when I was youth pastoring, Lorenzo and Patrice and some of the others who are on here, they've been with me. But it's crazy when I think about how long some people have been with me. It's like I feel like I haven't even lived long enough for people to be with me as long as they've been with me. But there was a certain time where they didn't let me do it. We were serving in the church in Maywood, and they felt like it was too close to what was happening on the streets. But I wanted to do this whole hope dealer campaign. Now that I lead a bunch of people that now I may have to call a meeting and reinvigorate and bring that back to life about us being hope dealers. But I think what you said is so key and critical. I had a chance to speak to some high school students and then some middle school students not too long ago, and I shared with them about hope. And it was this quote from St. Augustine that said that hope has two beautiful daughters.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is anger and the other is courage.
Whew.
That hope has two beautiful daughters. One is anger, one is courage. Sometimes we have to be angry enough about how some things are, but believe it's possible to overcome it. And we have to have enough courage to keep going when it doesn't look like it. Enough courage to keep going when it gets tough. Enough courage to keep going when it doesn't make sense. Enough courage to keep going when I can't see my way out and when others don't understand it. But only when I have hope can I do that. And so I think that is so key, that is so critical. I want to say thank you so very much. And what I feel like this did tonight is really, I don't know if anybody else was white. Yeah, thank you. Type that in the comments, hashtag hope dealer. Type that in there. Some of the family, we're doing it. We're doing it. But my conviction is this, that ultimately I feel uniquely called in this stretch of time. I don't know if it'll always be my area and this will always be my lane, but it's something I've always been passionate about. But I feel like I want to spend my life now loving my wife, loving my kids, loving the church I've been called to lead, loving the communities I've been called to serve, but also really kind of spending time doing what you and I have done over the last course of these couple of years, right? Talking to influencers, going public about some of the coaching and some of the thought leadership that I provided and I work together with people about. Because I've got this, and I think you can speak to this, and if some of you know me, I've got this passion and this keen way of kind of seeing ministry and marketplace, right?
Yeah.
That they don't have to be separate, but I don't have to carry the cross when I walk into the room. But when I walk into the room, the cross doesn't have to lead, right? And so I think you're an incredible example of that, even in your role as a financial leader, as a man of God, as a husband, as an influencer, but as somebody who, whatever room you walk in, whether they know it or not, you just brought hope with you in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is such a game changer. It allows us to truly become barrier breakers. And so I want to say thank you so much, my brother. I had epic expectations. They try to push me tonight. This is not what this is for tonight. But ultimately though, it's in me. And ultimately though, my conviction is that people can overcome their obstacles, that they can break barriers that were set before them, that ceilings can definitively be broken, but they have to believe it, even when others don't. They have to believe it, even when others say they can't. And that's what I really want to work toward this next stretch of time for me, is really dedicating and carving out intentional time around outside of, and again, I love the church I lead. We're not a four walls ministry,
Mm-hmm.
but there's some people who the second I slap church on it, they're just like, I don't get down with that over there. But there is an incredible need for people to hear about the opportunity that exists, about the possibilities that exist, about the future that can exist for them, if they're willing to step into what can be by stepping out of whatever was or was not. And so I want to say thank you again so much. I look forward to having you back on for some more things in the future. I want to say thank you for our brotherhood. I want to say thank you for your partnership and your support of me and everything that I've done. And I look forward to continuing to carrying that on. And I mean it when I say my hope is this. My hope is that tonight also sparks something in terms of other people locally and wherever else, understanding what kind of a powerhouse that we have in our local community. We serve we're a global world. We serve anybody everywhere, right? That's no question. But in our local communities, right there in the Proviso and West Suburban Cook, for those who live in that area or their families live in the area, you're right there serving the people. You're right there with opportunity for the people. And the big thing, oh, who nobody here, nobody cares. Christopher Parker, Proviso Community Bank. Wintrust has your back because he has your back. So it's not about whoever else told you no before. I'm telling you somebody right here who wants to at least give you a chance to hear your story. It can at least put you in touch with, if he can't do the work, he can put you in touch with somebody else who can. And so I look forward to having you back for some other things in the future, brother. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Please send my regards to your wife for lending me to you on a Monday night. And I'm going to go spend some time with mine, and I hope you go do the same. But I want to say thank you so very much. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. I really hope that people were blessed, and I really, at the end of the day, you know, we live this thing. We wake up and we're thinking about how we can be hope dealers. When we go to sleep, we're getting rest to do it all over again. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Same to you and your family and all your awesome ministry. And I see so many people from Lorenzo and Dr. Mary May Larry and so many people are commenting and tuning in. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to being on here again. Thank you so much, Pastor. You all have a good night.
You all have a good night. Thank you.